Wait, what is this shit?
Not safe for f***ing worker placement podcast.
I flipped the board. I despise that game. Oh, shit. That's not... Oh, wait. Hello and welcome to the 17th episode of the Not Safe for Worker Placement podcast, a board game podcast brought to you by me, Leandra.
And me, Ben.
We're married and we're here to talk shit about board games.
Talking shit about the country, but...
Oh my God. Oh. So we're at Walmart earlier and this girl...
No, I wasn't commenting on anyone in particular.
No, the girl was walking in front of us and she had bling jeans on.
Yeah.
And it made you start singing that horrid song for the last 2 hours. Country butt. And then like changing all of the...
Let me give you a little example.
Please do.
Country butt. Gotta get my hands on the country butt.
Oh my God.
Country butt. Hot sweaty butter on the country butt. I don't know what I'm doing.
No, it was sweet cream.
Sweet cream butter on the country butt. Yeah. It's terrible. I don't know why, but... It's pretty bad. I think I got a hit on my hands, babe.
I think you do.
If I can sell that to Jason Aldean or like Toby Keith.
Millionaires.
So anyway, hey, country butts all around the country. We are a board game podcast. So let's get to talking about board games. But again, country butt first. I have no idea if that will translate to will anybody understand what just happened. But anyway, I don't know if any of this makes sense yet or not, but we're going to keep rolling. First thing we're going to do and get out of the way is the plugs. We're going to plug that country butt.
Oh my God.
Okay, I'm going to drop that. That's it. All right. You got to drop it like it's hot. Okay.
I was getting ready to say that. Shoot.
All right, so plugs. If you would like to hear any more of our nonsense or past episodes where we do not mention any country butts, go to our website at www.nsfwppodcast.com where you'll find links to Facebook, Twitter, where you can also find us there at facebook.com/nsfwppodcast or at nsfwppodcast on Twitter. And you can find our RSS feed on every place you can imagine, iTunes, YouTube. Well, they don't have the RSS feed, but they have all the episodes. Google Play Music, Stitcher, everything.
You should really pre-record this and just like insert here.
Nah, it's fine. So that's pretty much it. That's our plugs. Now we're going to move forward with our old format. Last week we did a bunch of interviews, which I think was cool, and I hope everybody enjoyed that. But we're back in the saddle again with our normal...
with your sassafras and mouth.
The improv queen, Leandra, over here. Why don't we tell a little story about that? In case you listened to the last episode, we did a radio play thing for Western Legends to intro that interview with AJ. And I wrote out a little script, right? And it basically said she was playing, what were you, Annie Oakley?
No.
Shit.
Calamity
Jane, yeah. And I wrote a little script out, and she was supposed to say... shut your garb, law dog.
Nope.
No, shut your garb. Okay, I can't say it either. Shut your gob, law dog, was what she was supposed to say, which I don't know how time appropriate that is. Anyway, but she started trying to say it and it was coming out. Shush your garb, law dog. She's like, I've literally never seen these words in the English language before.
Like, shut your gob, like G-O-B.
Your gob?
So I didn't shut up. I didn't know what that was. And so he told me, have a really thick country accent. So I'm pre-reading all this and I'm trying and I'm just going along with this horrible country accent. And then that sentence comes up and it was, shut your garb, Lord dog. Dang it.
It wasn't even close.
So the fact that you just tried to re-say it and said it is fabulous.
So Leander just improv the line and it turned into shut your sassafrassin mouth.
I couldn't say it.
Which I am certain is not an expression, but it worked really well. It was pretty funny. So anyway, that's what happened last week. And this week we're going to get back to our regularly scheduled program, which we always start out by talking about what we've been playing lately. And since it's been damn near 3 weeks, we've got quite a list. We're going to start out with one that I had to try to remind Leandra of, and I don't think she remembers hardly anything about. Folks. But let's get it out of the way because I have a few things to talk about it. It is Valletta, and it's a game by Stefan Dora and published by Z-Man Games. I was interested in this game when I heard of it like last year, and it was kind of hard to get a hold of, as some Z-Man games are. It was pretty highly priced for what it is. It's a deck builder, so there's no real board in the game. It's just a bunch of cards that you lay out in a grid pattern, and you have your starting deck like every deck builder, and you're trying to get these. The whole idea is you're building up the city of, oh crap, what is it? It's Malta, I believe. Yeah, you're building up Malta, and you're the white people saviors of Malta, because that's the only history we ever tell about, is when the white people colonized someplace. So that's basically what this is about.
Lovely.
And there's a guy named Jean something Valette who was one of the main players of doing that. He's kind of featured in there. There's a little track that he moves up, and he's kind of a game timer. And everybody has a card of his in their deck. And every time you play him, he moves up, and you get a little bonus. You get to flip over a little barrel with a bonus under it. And basically what it is it's a very simplified, a very streamlined game of getting resources. So you play a card from your hand, it gives you a certain amount of resources. When you get enough resources of the right types, you can pay for, you can play a builder to build a house on one of these cards out in that grid that I talked about. And that each one of those cards on the grid, there's a bigger card that makes up the city, and there's a smaller card on top of it, which you can then take and add to your deck. And then you put a house on that bigger card, and then it's going to give you some resources for the rest of the game and points and whatnot. And then you add that card to your discard pile and shuffle when need be, and now you've got another card in your deck. And they do different things. And then there's a mechanism for like upgrading your houses. So the ones that you've built your houses on, you can spend a certain amount of resources to flip them over and make them worth more points and make them worth more resources. But all in all, it's pretty streamlined like that. You do it until the end of the game, count up points. Leandra spanked me at it.
I don't even remember playing.
You don't even remember. You do remember it when I showed it to you. You just don't remember anything about it, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I think that may be, it's also because it's been 3 weeks ago, and Leandra does not take notes or retain anything about board games. So,
which we've already pointed out.
We've already established
times.
that. But this one in particular, I think the reason why she doesn't remember it that much is because even though the next day she said, "Hey, I like that game. We should play that again." It's a forgettable game. It really is. I was really excited for it, and knowing that Stefan Dora is he's a really high pedigree designer, and Z-Man when they put out a new Euro game, it usually gets me excited. The game is fun, and it's a good game, but there's nothing memorable about it. It's very vanilla, and I don't want to say I'm disappointed, because I think we'll play it again, and it's a fun little, especially at 2-player, super quick, maybe 30 minutes to play it. But I don't see it ever coming off the shelf in any other way. I don't see like playing it 4 players and having a game night featured around that game. So, all in all, Valletta, mediocre. All right, what's up next on our list, babe?
The Bruno Mars game.
Oh, is this an episode of What Does Leandra Call This Game?
And this one's the Bruno Mars game.
Okay, so this is not a Target exclusive trying to capitalize on the fire that is Bruno Mars. No, it's actually a game called Burano, which is from some Chinese designers, I do believe. I'm going to get the box here because I do not remember their names. Oops, shit. Designed by Yu Chen Sang and Eros Lin.
I'm positive that you most likely mispronounced that.
Oh, I think that was perfect. By QSF Games, which I've never heard of before, and Broadway Games. I would say that's the U.S. distributor. Burano is a really interesting game. It's been around for a couple of years. Very interested to get a hold of it, and I finally did. And I'm glad I did, because it was pretty cool. Now, Lee, why don't you tell us a little bit about the Bruno Mars game?
The Bruno Mars game, yes, it's a cube game. So you have, 5 different color cubes, something like that, and you get a select number of cubes, and you have to make like a little pyramid out of your cubes. And so the different color cubes goes with making roofs on houses. And so you have to arrange your cubes so that you can... I'm horrible at explaining things. I don't know why you're asking me to explain things.
I didn't want you to tell how to play the game. I just wanted you to give an overview of what it was about.
It's cubes, and you make houses.
Theme? What's the theme about?
I don't know.
Okay, Burano is an Italian city that apparently is famous for, or was at some point, for making lace, like the best lace in the world.
Yeah.
So the idea is that
it's very sexist, because both the little people have a male side and a female side, and only the females are supposed to go in the lace section.
Well, it's historically accurate, but yeah. Oh, but you don't have to do that. You can
But that doesn't matter if it's historically accurate. Men could be in the lace factory. But
they weren't. They wouldn't be at the time that this game is set. There would be no men working in the lace factory. But essentially, that is the theme, that you're building up this island, the city of Burano, and you're going to send your workers out to do one of three things, basically. They're either going to fish on the little island surrounding it, right? Or they're going to go to the lace factory and work in the lace factory, or they're going to build roofs on the houses. And that's a three-dimensional aspect of the cubes, right? So you're putting the cubes out to build the buildings, and then you can build the roofs. So basically, that's where this pyramid of cubes to take your different actions and the different colors come from. So back to you, babe.
Yes. So each thing you can do, you can prepare your cube for the next turn, or you can build, which is already using a prepared cube, or you can create a roof. So you have roof tiles. So everything that you need to do is based on these color cubes. So when you're trying to build your pyramid, you need to decide kind of ahead of time what you're trying to achieve. Are you going to lace? Are you going to get money? Are you going to build your roofs? There's different things that you can try to get your cubes, and you only can use your cubes from the top down. So as you use them, then you can use the one below it, whatever's available and able to move.
That's one of the hardest parts of the game right there, because every round you have to rebuild your cube pyramid, and you have to, and the action colors that are associated with those actions you talked about are shuffled up. So they're different colors every time. Every color has two different actions associated with it. And so at the beginning of every round, you have to rebuild that pyramid, and that's a hard part. And you have to get more cubes too by you have this player board that has a weird wheel on it. And how many you take your workers off of the wheel, right? And as that wheel gets exposed, more stuff gets exposed, you get more cubes at the end of every round, which gives you more options. That's pretty tough, like in and of itself. And then from there, so you talked about taking the actions that you can do. So then every action that you do also has something else that it does. Like everything gives you a bonus, right? So like when you build a roof, it's got a little bonus that you get, the different types of roofs that you build, and they have to be built on certain color cubes on the board.
And then you can build up too.
Yeah, you can build like a three-dimensional. So once you build two cubes that have a roof that connect those two, then you can build cubes on top of those.
And you get extra points if you use the same color cubes as the roof. And I mean, there's just so many different aspects to this game. And when we finished it, holy shit, that's a heavy game. Like there's so much going on.
Not even that. Like I read the rules, I watched some videos, and I thought, I've got this. I get this game down. It is complicated, but I get it. So we started playing it, and something we didn't mention, which we haven't even mentioned like 3/4 of it. We're not going to go completely into everything, but the one thing that I didn't do we played 2 rounds, I think, with your sister and your brother. And then I was like, oh, there's something we haven't been doing. Because
it was too easy.
It was too easy. We were all doing all this stuff, and I was like, oh, yeah, every action you take on your turn, you can take up to 4 actions. The first one's free, and actually it's more than free. It gets you $1.
Yes.
But then after that, you have to start paying for your actions, and your second one costs $2, and your third one costs $3, and your final action costs $4 or $5. I can't remember.
Something like that.
And so if you're going to take 4 actions, it's going to cost you a total of like $11 through that turn, and money's very tight. So we didn't even do that for the first, 2 rounds.
Oh, this is easy.
But we had the rest of the rules down, so we're like, let's just start over and play it right, So I think this game is super heavy as far as the rules load that you have to know up front. But once you start playing it, it's just about trying to do well. And there's a bunch of other aspects. Like one of the big important things that we found out from you, like spanking us all in the first game, was that these bonus, by building the roofs, you can get these bonus cards. And they are sometimes give you powers throughout the game. Sometimes they give you in-game scoring. Those are huge, right?
Yeah, there's a few really strong ones there. There's just like 3 or 4 that really changed the game. And the last game we played, you actually had all the powerhouse cards.
Yeah, and then the first game we played, you had the ones that were really getting good. Like you can get ones that let you ignore the colors of the roofs when you're placing them, different colors of the roof so that you can place them more easily.
Or you get double points.
Yeah, or you get double points if you use this certain color roof to do something. Or if there's some that are just points at the end of the game. There's some that allow you to kick people's workers out of the lace factory. The lace factory is a whole other thing. We didn't talk about the lace factory. Is kind of cool. It's like this Tetris thing that you set up at the beginning of the game that has different colors on them. And whenever you take a lace action by building a building of a certain color for whatever that associated color is that round, then you get to place one of your workers out, depending on
female workers.
One of your female sides, depending on where that wheel I talked about earlier, it has certain colors around it, and depending on where that is, determines where you can place wherever you're pulling that worker from. It has to go in the whatever color it comes from, has to go into that color factory on the board. And it sounds super complicated to explain it, but then you're getting majority in those factories, right? And there's a card that lets you just replace someone else.
Oh yeah, and he totally did, because we were 3/4 of the way done with this game, and I was doing fairly well, and then Ben got that card and completely took away all of my lace people, everything. So I lost so many points, in-game points, that I didn't get because he did that one little move, and he had the roof card, and he had the extra 9-point card, and
I won by like 60 points.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
2-player, I don't think it's quite as competitive as it is with multiplayer, because everybody tried something different when we played 4 players. You know, you did heavy on the cards.
On
your
the
brother
roofing.
did nothing but the fishing, which has to do with these islands on the outside, and every round you score majority for those, and you get a lot of points if you have people in those fishing islands. I don't know
what Toy did lacing.
Yep, Toy did the lace. I tried to do a little bit of everything, and it didn't work out very well. And there's also a set collection aspect in the fishing part where you get these different fish cards and different seafood type cards, and you can turn them in. You can sell them at the market for certain. I mean, there's just so much.
There's
going
a
on
lot going on, but it's fun.
It's super
really
fun. And once you get the rules down, it's like, oh, okay, well, now we can play it. It's very smooth. Once you get going, it's very smooth. But to teach it is tough, So I am super excited about having it, because I think now that me and you and your brother and your sister know it.
Play with Vaughn.
And we should try it out with Vaughn too, yeah.
He'll probably spank us.
He picks up on it very quickly. So, but
that's the Bruno Mars game.
That's Burano, a.k.a. the Bruno Mars game. Okay, we spent enough time on that one. Okay, next, we've got a small box card game that I think is a lot of game in a tiny little box, and that's called Oh My Goods.
Oh My Goods.
From Alexander Pfister and Mayday Games. Now, Alexander Pfister is really hot designer right now. He kind of came on the scene with Broom Service, and then from that point, he won Spiel des Jahres with Broom Service, and then he made Mombasa, and the big hit of last year, which was Great Western Trail, and he's continuing that on with this Oh My Goods, which is just it's a $12 game, basically, small little box, deck of cards, right? But what you can do with that small little box and deck of cards is a pretty in-depth little,
a fun game,
economic game where it's basically set in in a medieval era, or early times era, and it's basically about workers somewhere in Germany, I believe. It's a fictional city that they set up called Longsdale. And basically what you do is everybody starts out with one worker, and they're identical. You can either be women or male or female worker card, and then everybody starts out with a char burner, which is the one building in front of you. And a char burner is just about burning your wood to heat your water to make your stuff, I guess. I don't know, or make coal. It makes coal, I guess. So you're burning wood to make coal, and everybody's char burner takes a little bit different resources. And then the game goes through some phases. So everybody starts out and it's a morning phase, and you take from the deck of cards and you flip over until 2 little half sun things are revealed, and that's the morning market.
Night, yeah.
And then everybody decides, then knowing what they have in that morning market and what they have in their hands, you have a hand of cards that can be used as either making more buildings to build or as resources to feed the buildings that you have.
This is where I failed, because I'm not a good bettor. And so if I didn't have the cards in front of me or in my hand, I felt like I didn't want to bet that my worker would be efficient.
Yeah, and that's the key. Talk about that.
Yeah, so your
worker can work two different ways.
Your worker can be sloppy or efficient. So you want to fulfill cards in your hand with the resources. Or no,
your buildings. You want to be able to power your buildings.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah. Yes. And so, but you're using the cards in your hands and the cards that are laid out in front of you. So you have the morning time, and then you have to decide if you want to have your worker be sloppy or efficient. Do you have the cards or do you have the resources to be able to do these buildings to get you extra points? I'm not a good bettor. So if I was even missing one card, I wouldn't push my luck. And so I didn't get nearly as many points because several times that bit me in the ass. But I'm just not a good bettor.
I'm the other way. I want to push my luck, like in that game, because what's cool is, and what's weird, if
you push your luck, you don't get anything if they don't show up, right?
So basically, if you work efficiently, it means that you're saying that you're putting your worker under one of your buildings or next to one of your buildings out in front of you, and you can have a whole bunch of buildings, but you only have one main worker, and you can hire assistants to power other buildings. But basically, you're saying he's going to run this building this day. And he's going to, if he works efficiently, he's going to have every resource he needs. So it might be like your thing might need, 2 woods,
a coal and a hay or whatever.
And a grain
wheat,
or whatever.
That was.
And you're going to say, okay, well, I have 2 wood in my hand and there's 1 coal out on the market, but that wheat that I need is not out there. But there's going to be another phase called the sundown phase. So the same thing happens in the morning, where after you've committed to either working efficiently or sloppily, then you start flipping cards again until 2 of those half suns come out. That could be 11 cards before it happens, or it could be 2 cards. So you never know. And so you're trying to push your luck of being like, am I going to get that last resource I need? Because if you work efficiently and you are short 1 resource, you get nothing. You make nothing. But if you get all of them, then you make 2 goods on that building. And that's the best way to work. Yep. But then if you work sloppily, you can ignore 1 prerequisite of the goods. So like if you needed the 2 wood and the coal and the wheat, you could just get rid of that wheat if it never pops up. And you can say, I don't think it's going to show up. So,
but then you don't get 2 resources. But then
you only get 1 resource. So it's depending on that. So there's a little push your luck, but I think that's cool. I think that's interesting. It makes for good decisions. And then the other thing you can do is every round you can pick a card out of your hand to place down in front of you before that night phase. And if you have the resources, or if you have the money, which is every building that you build in front of you makes a resource that's worth every resource on that building is worth a certain amount of money. So the better buildings that you build are worth more points at the end of the game, and their resources are worth more money.
See, I didn't quite fully understand. I need to play it again. The very end phase where this machine produces this, which produces this, and you can feed your machines to each other to make your endpoints. Yeah,
that's the other thing it's a little bit complicated. Like the most complicated part of the game is this thing called resource chains or production chains. So each building has the ability to produce the thing that it produces, and then it also has a chain thing, which means if you feed it more if it produces on that turn, and you feed it more cards from your hand, like if mine has a production chain thing that needs wood, like most char burners is like that. So if it produces 2 goods, let's say, and I have 2 more wood in my hand, then I can discard those wood on top of that, and they become goods on top of there. And then later on, I might build a building that needs wood, right? So I can move wood from my char burner over to there in order to produce its chain, and then it will produce like a brick, let's say, and that brick then can be produced to move to something else, and it chains the whole production. And in the last round, that usually only happens if you produce on that round, which is max of like having 1 or 2 buildings can happen per turn. But in the last round, whether they produce or not, you can run every resource chain that you can. So you want to have a combo of being able to produce this thing that powers this building, that powers this building, that powers this building, and that's pretty hard to figure out.
Yeah, I didn't do very well with that part.
And I didn't either on that last game we played, but that can be big. That can win you the game on that last round if you really had stuff that comboed up. It could. So,
but it's quite a little game for a little box.
Yeah, and not that hard to really figure out. Pretty easy to teach. Yeah. I think it's pretty interesting. And there is an expansion that just came out for it called Revolt in Longsdale, which is a weird thing in this game. It puts a story on top of this little game. This game is very abstract kind of as it is, it's just little dudes working on your little buildings in a village. But this gives like these scenarios, and it's played over 12 games. So it sort of adds like a legacy game to it, where every scenario is something that you need to try to accomplish in this village. And then that goes on over 12 different games, and then you see who wins at the end, which seems pretty interesting. Sure. So that is Oh My Goods. Okay, the 4th game we're going to talk about is a big one. It's a biggie. So Leander's yawning already, so this should be good. Twilight Imperium 4th edition.
I did not play this.
No, Lee definitely did not play this one. And, not for lack of trying, for the guy who organized this day was like, oh, you should bring your wife up and she could play. You guys can talk about it on the podcast. And I'm like, well, my impressions of Twilight Imperium was that it was going to take, 12 hours a day out of a day to play, at least maybe 14. And that, I thought it's going to be a little random and I'm probably going to be terrible at it. So I'm not even that much fun, but
I did watch the video with you.
You did watch the video. And I thought, well, I want to try it once in my life because I am notorious for not wanting to play these super, super long games, even though everyone I've ever played, the only one I've played before that was, and it wasn't even to this extent, was the Game of Thrones game. And I was excited for that because of the theme, but we started playing it and I actually loved it, but we played it at a convention and started at about 10 o'clock at night and played till, 3 o'clock in the morning or whatever. Geez. But that was fine because there was nowhere to go, nowhere to be, and I knew it was going to be long. So I set in for it, but I lost horribly in that game. Like, 'cause I just know these dudes on a map games where, and I'm playing people who are very skilled at these type of things. I'm like, I'm not going to do well. And I'm going to know 1 hour into this super long game that I've lost, What fun is that going to be if I know in the first hour of this game and I've got 13 hours to go and I know it's hopeless. That thankfully was not what happened in this game. What I will say, I'll start out and I'll say Twilight Imperium 4th edition, I think it has to be streamlined from the other versions because they were the notorious, 14, 15 hour games. We played with 5 players. It took 7.5 hours and it felt like it took 3. Like it really, really, really flew by. It was super fun. I did pretty well. Ended up tying for second place. I was in the lead the entire game. So I'm going to give everybody who doesn't know anything about Twilight Imperium a brief overview, as brief as I can for a game of this size and scope. So Leander, listen up, since I know you're very interested.
I can't wait.
You were glued to that video that we're watching.
Yes, love it.
So I'm going to give a little overview of it. So basically, the game is played over several phases, and each phase will take, anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes. So I'm going to break them down one by one. So first
he's going to take at least 10 hours to talk about this 7-hour game.
You can either pick one thing.
Is that burnt toast I smell?
Do certain actions.
Stroke would be such a blessing right now.
Oh yeah. So my favorite action that you can take in the game is a tactical action. Let me tell you about tactical actions.
I'm about to take a tactical action on his ass if he doesn't wrap this shit up.
And then you can produce other things and different shapes on the board.
Ooh, I've got stuff to decorate the new house with.
There's definitely. Oh. And the other thing I was going to tell you about. Are you zoning out, babe? Seems sort of like.
No, honey, I'm just as captivated as I possibly can be.
Oh, that's awesome, because I thought you might not be so into hearing about it. I'll just stop now before I start boring you. How about that?
Are you sure? You can continue if you'd like.
No, there's plenty of good videos online. If you want to go, really learn how to play. I just gave a brief overview there, but, I could have went on for a while, but I know
7 hours worth?
Yeah, possibly.
Well, thanks, honey.
So anyway, that's Twilight Imperium 4. I definitely would play it again. I thought it would be a thing that I played once and never ever go back to, but now I'm thinking if I had a whole day to spend playing a game, that'd be the one I would pick. It was pretty awesome. Yeah, it really would be. Huh. So, what's next on our list, babe?
Heaven and Ale.
Heaven and Ale by Michael Kiesling and Andreas Schmidt, published by Eggert Spiel, and then also Plan B Games in the U.S. So, what do you think about Heaven and Ale, babe? Another super light game we played, right?
Huh. I like it. It's fun. It's we've played it 3 times now in the last 3 days?
I've played it 3 times. I think you played it twice.
Oh.
No, you played it 3 times.
I think I have
I played it 4 times then, yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a fun game. So it's... Oh, I'm horrible at describing. I don't do describing well.
Okay, well, let me go over it a little bit, and then you'll tell me how you win the game every time you play.
Yes.
So basically...
That's really the most important part, is that I win the game.
It's a super weird game to explain. It is
a weird game to explain.
I feel like it's very simple, honestly.
It's a race.
Except for the scoring.
It's a race.
Well, it's not really a race, because there's a set number of rounds.
Well, it's kind of a race. Sort
of. Let's see. Here's what you do. Basically, the theme is... You're making a monastery, right? and your monastery is going to do what best monasteries do. They're going to brew beer. So you've hired a brewmaster, right? But this game is not really about making beer until the very end, until final scoring.
End.
Basically, what you're doing is you're preparing from the ground up to be able to brew beer. So what you're doing is you're training up your brewmaster guy, and you're moving up these different resources that you need to brew the beer.
And there's a light side and a dark side of your board.
Let me get there.
Oh, sorry.
And how you're doing that is by building up your farm on your monastery to make these different resources that you need, which are wheat, water, yeast, hops, and wood. And, wood is a main ingredient in beer. So you have to...
Gotta have the barrels.
Yeah, I think that's for the barrels. You're right. So it's basically, there's a tile laying component to this game, and there's an economic component to the game, and that's pretty much what it is. It's about managing your money and getting the right resources and laying these tiles down to do different things. So you have, like Lee said, a light side and a dark side of your farm, and if you put tiles down on the dark side of your farm, then that's considered to be that they're going to produce income for you. So I guess you're growing them to sell to get yourself more money to plant more stuff in your light side of your farm where it's going to grow better. If you buy a tile by doing the action selection mechanism, which is like a big track on a board, and you have to go forward and you can't go backwards, and you're going all the way around a track and picking up these random tokens around the board. That's how you actually select your actions or what you're going to do. So let's say you select a tile. Well, then you can place that tile on your shady side or your light side. If you place on your shady side, every resource has a number on it from 1 to 5. You pay face value on your shady side or double face value on your sunny side, which is tough.
But the sunny side allows you to increase your resource by the amount of the number shown on the tile.
Yep. And the whole key to the game is managing that money income on the dark side and your resource production on the sunny side in order to move these resources from their starting places, which they start in a certain order. Like your wheat starts the lowest on this track, then your water, then your yeast, and then your hops, and then your wood. And you've got to move them all up and prioritize certain ones. And your brewmaster starts at the very bottom, and he's got to go up. And the whole trick of the game is, in the way that I teach the game and I think works well, is you have to know the in-game goal. You have to know how to score points because you're really not scoring a lot of points throughout the game. You're doing certain things by placing these tiles down and hiring these monks to score some objective goals, some in-game objectives that are worth points.
There's several ways to score points. You can score by the number on the tiles on your board. You can score by the color, so you can do each, blue and white and yellow, depending on, which resource you use. And you can score per monk. There's 4 different monks, but you only can score those topics one time per game. That's it.
Mm-hmm. And that's the tricky part. And scoring, even saying scoring, and that's what it's called in the game, is a tricky thing because you're taking these scoring or discs off the board. But scoring is a tricky word because you're really not scoring points probably by doing that. You're just activating these things to move up your resources and get money. You're not even really scoring any points by doing that. You're just hopefully scoring points at the end of the game because most of your points come from these bonus barrels, or at the end of the game, here's the tricky part. Basically, you look at how far up your brewmaster has gotten on the board first, and if he's made it to at least the turn, basically the track goes from the bottom left of your little player board and then to the top of that corner, then to the right, and kind of circles around.
In each section of the top of the player board where your brewmaster goes is a different end scoring. So like the top one that you can get to, the very first one, of course, is sucky. So that's how you score. So we're getting to that part, and then we'll talk more about it. But basically, what you're going to look at is where that guy ended up on that track, and that's going to give you 2 things. It's going to give you an exchange rate anywhere from 5 to 1 to 1 to 1. 1 to 1 being the best, and a multiplier anywhere from 2 to, I think, 5. And those are the 2 things that you're going to score off of. And how that exchange rate works is what Lee was talking about. This is the trickiest part of the game. This is what you need to know you're going to have to do before you ever start doing anything in the game. You need to know how this works. You've got all those 5 resources that are happening. And so you'll look at the farthest advanced resource that you have.
So let's say it's your wood. And then you look at your least advanced resource. Let's say that's your wheat. And you use that exchange rate that we talked about. Let's say you got to a 2-to-1 with your brewmaster. You would then move your wood back 2 and your wheat up 1. And then you could continue to do that. And what you're doing is continuing to do that exchange rate until all of your resources are stuck together in one spot.
And then that's your points.
And then that's where your points are. Yeah. And so you don't even start getting points until you move all the way up about 12 slots, I think. And that's when you score 1 point. Then you take the second number we talked about, which is the multiplier. So let's say at a 2-to-1, your multiplier is 3 or 4. Then you would multiply, let's say your lowest, you conglomerated them all together at a 3. And then you had a multiple of 4, so you would get 12 points, and that's your score.
And that's your score.
Plus your bonuses that you've gotten throughout the game. So maybe you get these barrel bonuses, and there's big barrels, which are worth 4, small barrels, which are worth 2, and they have to do with the tiling aspect and how far you moved up your
usually you don't
stuff.
get those until the very last round. And that's the whole thing of this game is you only, with the 2-player, there's only 3 rounds. So the very first round, you're just trying to make up your board. The second round, maybe you can start doing the points aspect, the scoring, and there's only a limited amount. And so if someone jumps ahead of you and takes all those, you're screwed. So you kind of have to, score even though you know you're going to have more able to score later. Like it's a really big juggling act in this game.
It really is. And with a 2-player game, I have yet to score a single point on the in-game thing. Like I've scored the bonus points. I scored a multiple. I think 8 was my highest total, or 12. But that was only off of bonuses. I've never made it to an actual where I could use my multiplier. My multiplier is always multiplying by 0. But with a 3-player game that I've played, I did get up there and got my multiplier up. But you've always been able to get your multiplier going. So you've scored, I think you're averaging about 16 points a game.
Yeah. I won 2 games.
And tied me on the last one.
And then I tied you on the third one.
Which you technically win because there's no tiebreaker. So, which is pretty cool.
So I haven't lost a game yet.
You are the champion, my friend. No, it's a good thing though. Like, I didn't mind losing to you. But I'll tell you what, like after the first couple of games, I was more frustrated with this game than damn near any other game I've ever played. I was looking at my board. I had so much shit put out on my board, and I was like, just producing so much stuff. And I was looking at your board, and you had like 6 things put down, and you were scoring triple what I was. And I was like, what are we doing differently?
I think your comment was something of, well, if you had won because you knew what you were doing, it would be different.
Well, it was the first game. So is that like not accurate? I don't think either one of us knew what we were doing. But it was like, if I felt like...
Being accurate is not the point.
That's true. But I felt like you didn't have like a grand strategy going into it yet.
You don't know. You don't know me.
I do sort of know. But I was just assuming you didn't just, master the game. And you know what's weird about this game is that I was watching videos. Like one of my favorite guys to watch a video and a review from is Joel Eddy from Drive Thru Reviews, because he does a really good job of like talking in plain layman's terms about how the game works, explaining it simply, and saying what he thinks about it. And we usually like the same type of games. He was talking about this game, and he's like, I usually score 40 or 50 points.
40 or 50 points.
But I've played games where somebody scored 80, and I've scored games where somebody only scored 5. And I'm like, motherfucker, I played a game where I scored nothing. So are we just stupid?
I don't know.
How could you possibly score 80 points in this game?
Don't know.
Now, the difference and the weird thing about this game is it scales in a weird way. Like we said, in 2-player game, it only goes 3 rounds. Which is super fast. It's over quickly.
So fast.
4-player game, it goes 4 rounds, or 3-player games, it goes 4 rounds, which is a little bit better. I noticed playing it 3-player last night, it was a little bit more flexibility. Yeah. Then 4-player, you go 5 rounds, which would, there are more people, competing.
He must have only ever played with 4 players.
Yeah, because that's the only way you could score that many points. I think house
rules, when you and I play by ourselves, we need 4 rounds.
Just do 4 rounds and 2 players. And I don't see how that would break the game. It would just be a higher score.
I think you would enjoy it more.
Yeah. because it is so tight. Like, it is so hard to score points in this game, and that was really unexpected.
But it's still
for
a
me.
super fun game.
Yeah, playing it's awesome, but looking at your futile effort at the end and be like, oh, you mean I did all that and I scored nothing?
I think my marriage is on the line if you didn't.
I was about to say that was my line. I was like, if I didn't at least score a point in that third game we played, it was going to be divorce time. I was just like, fuck this.
If I had won again.
Yeah, but we tied, so we both won, and that was cool. So we're together forever still.
Well, I'm so glad.
That's how tenuous this marriage is.
That's awesome.
So I really like Heaven and Hell. It's been a long time since I've been enamored with a game like this and like felt challenged by it, felt like the gameplay is super simple, but trying to figure out how to make it all work together is the
I feel
hard
that
part.
way with Courtier, and fuck Courtier. I won't ever play it again.
Why'd you have to bring that up?
I'm sorry.
You weren't enamored with it. You just hate it.
No, I couldn't win it. I tried it. We tried it
two times,
2 or 3 times, and I just couldn't win. And I sucked at it. And it's screw you and flip the board and walk away.
Yeah. We've covered this territory before. It's a great game,
and we're still married.
We're gonna play it again.
I never even threatened our marriage.
It's because you just won't play it anymore.
You damn right I won't.
All right, and so last one on our list is something we played last night with, and I was very surprised by this because. You played it on New Year's Eve, and we talked about it last episode. You played Scythe for the first time by Jamie Stegmaier and Stonemeyer Games, and I didn't have a copy at the time, and you bought, for my birthday in January, you bought me a copy of Scythe, which is amazing.
I did.
So since you bought...
It wasn't really for your birthday. It was more of a bribing, make you happy present, just because it was after... Your birthday was your birthday present. I mean, your birthday party, which failed.
But you also said you were going to buy me Scythe for my birthday, and then you forgot to do it.
But then I didn't do it. And then you were upset because we're moving. Everyone knows this. And he's having to rebuild his man cave. And so he's not really happy about moving. So this was like here's smile present.
You're buttering me up. And board games is the best type of
I'm
buttering
aware.
up.
That's why I did it.
You can continue to do that and keep my spirits high.
Okay.
So you bought me Scythe. And for the longest time, we've talked about Scythe a few times. I just kind of steered clear of it after I played it my first time. I was like, it's cool. I like it, but it's not really my type of game. I'll never play it. There's no reason for me to buy this game because it's never going to get played in our house. And then suddenly I played it a couple more times. I played it in a tournament and I started understanding the mechanisms of the game. And I was like, I like this a little bit more, but still no reason for me to have it. Then your sister came along and started gaming with us. She grew up playing Risk and these games like, war games and stuff, and she's not afraid of any type of game. She played Scythe at a game night one night and was immediately in love with it. And your brother also played that same night, and he dug it. So I have gotten Scythe to the table 2 times just based on your brother and your sister.
Not because of your wife.
So you got me a copy, right? And I immediately set to decking mine out. So I've spent more money on it than you paid for the game already, upgrading it. I got the metal coins and the realistic resources, and I painted all the miniatures, which is the hardest part.
They look awesome.
And I really want to do a good job. So I think these are probably my best paint jobs I've ever done on anything, but they took a while. I was literally taking like 3 hours per miniature on these. It was really, they were super hard to do because each miniature has an animal and a person. So, you're basically painting 2 every time you're doing 1. Took me a lot of time, but I was motivated. And now I have a whole entire unpainted set sitting upstairs because in Moon City Con, which we'll be talking about a little bit more later, in April, we're giving away a set of painted miniatures for Scythe. And so I'm going to paint them. And that's going to be our Scythe tournament grand prize. It's going to be a fully painted set of miniatures for Scythe. So that's pretty cool.
So yesterday, I invited my brother, Steven, asked if I needed help packing. And Ben was working. So I was like, yeah, Steven, come over and pack. He said, well, I'll only do that if you play Scythe.
And I didn't know this. And I was like, she's like, is it okay if my brother comes over and helps? And I'm like, yeah, well, I don't care. I'm working. So go ahead. And I came back home and she's like, well, Steven's ready to play Scythe now. And I was like, oh, really? Because like the day before, Leah's like, we'll play whatever you want, but I'm not going to play Scythe. And I'm like, why? She's like, yes, like you liked it. But she's like, I don't know. I just don't know if I get it or not. But anyway, she's like capitulated because her brother helped out. And so I called Vaughn over and we got a 4-player game going. And so what did you think about it the second time around?
Second time around was much better than the first time around. And I really feel that that's because of the character that I got.
So you played Red, which is the Rusviet Union.
Yes, with the tiger, because she was awesome.
What are their names?
I have no Changa.
Changa is the
tiger's name.
Yeah.
Was it Olga?
Olga and Changa.
Yeah. And so the first time I played, I was the black character. Yeah. I don't remember that person's name.
I don't either. He has the wolf. He's the guy with the wolf. Yeah.
And I didn't enjoy it. Like it was my first time playing. And so, the game's a little overwhelming in the first place.
Well, let's talk about why it was so good to have the red one. Like the black one has
the black one was based on combat, which
yeah.
I didn't really like. Being the first time I played, it's like combat is for me is a second thought. Like it's not a main focus of what needs to be accomplished other than one single star on the board, and that's it.
Well, two for combat, but yeah.
So that was the only. And so I'm so glad that I got the red character this time. The red character's special move was I was able to stay on my selected previous option.
Action.
Thank you.
Because normally you can never take the same action 2 times in a row.
And this character you can. So I can produce or I can move twice or whatever I needed to do. I could just stay there.
That's a game changer because that really makes it...
It wasn't a game changer because I still came in fourth place.
But it's a game changer as far as it simplifies the game in a way because you can kind of do what you want instead of being forced to jump around. You can just be like, if I want to produce a bunch of times in a row, I can just do that, I
did like having a power that I was able to utilize because the black power of the combat wasn't for me. I didn't really want to combat. In fact, as I moved closer to you and Steven, it was, I'm just moving here and I don't want to fight.
Yeah. And I fought you once, but I told you, I was like, listen, I don't want to do this, but I'm going to get my 2 stars in combat. That's just going to happen.
Stomped his ass.
But you beat him. But see, you had done something in that game where you had a mech with a worker. And if I was to fight you then, you would have got a bonus, by having your worker. That was one of your special things.
Yep.
And if I would have went in there, then I would have lost the reputation by by basically killing a worker. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want to do that. So I was going to leave you alone. And then all of a sudden you just moved that worker out of there for some reason that I'm not really sure why. And I was like, ooh, so you just got one mech there.
Because she needed to go to the wood. I needed wood to be able to build things.
But that's the interesting part about that game, about the combat in that game, where it's not like you're rolling dice or anything. It's like I could look at the board and go, I will win that fight. Like there's no way I can't win that fight. Because I know what card I have in my hand and I know that I have more power than you. So it was an easy decision for me to go, okay, I have to do that now. Even though I don't want to fight you, but I have to because
even though I don't want to be a dick, I got to.
Well, it's just part of the game. And like I can't take this opportunity to not get the star out right now, So did that, and then you fought your brother and he attacked you and you beat him, which was great because
he's my little brother. Of course I'm gonna beat him.
And he had to lose a reputation because you had a person there. And I
would have lost everything I possibly could have lost just to beat him. I was not going to let him lose all your power.
So, and then how the game basically shook out was I had 4 stars out before anybody else had 2, and so I was just running the table. I thought, but my problem was money was super tight for me the whole game. I was spending my last dollar on every action, and barely getting a few back, and then spending those to do another action, and meanwhile, I look over there and Vaughn's not doing anything. Like Vaughn's not upgrading. Vaughn's not getting his mechs out. Vaughn's not he enlisted everything.
What was he doing?
He enlisted everything. So he was getting bonuses every time Steven and I did anything. He was getting stuff and he was just collecting money because his big thing was if he did his secondary action, every one of his secondary actions on that board that he happened to get was money. And he would get money for everything.
I do feel like I did this backwards. So I focused on upgrading first, but I feel like in general, enlisting is probably the best thing to do first.
I think you're right.
That way, when people start doing their deploying and their upgrading, you're getting points out of it. Because I did that last, and then I wasn't able to get any points because you boys had already done those actions, and so it did me no good.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. If you're going to enlist, you might as well do it early. If you wait till everybody's done all that stuff,
it does you no good.
You might as well not do it, And that's just once. I mean, they get you a bunch of bonuses for doing it too. So the quicker you get those things out, the more bonuses you're going to get throughout the game. That's one thing you got to play the game a couple times to realize is start enlisting early and getting those bonuses. And that's what Vaughn did. He had the first thing he did, the first star he got out was enlisting. And then from the rest of the game, he was just getting stuff left and right every time we would do anything. And he had like 10 combat cards in his hand all the time. So nobody's like, and also he never planned to fight. He didn't fight once and he didn't plan to, but he just kept getting the cards because he knew then, well, nobody's going to screw with me because they know I have at least, 5 here. Mm-hmm. So,
and his popularity
His popularity kept skyrocketing. So what he was doing is he wasn't doing anything on the board. He only got one mech out the whole game. He didn't move out of his starting area at all. He just produced a bunch of resources, did his actions, and built up money. So by the time we went to in-game scoring, I triggered the in-game, and he's like, "Oh, I think you beat me," because he was talking all about, "I think I got this no matter what you do, because what I'm about to do next." And I was like, "Well, fuck that. You ain't going to get it next. I was going to let it go one more round because I was like, I can build one more building and get this bonus." And you were like, "Oh, I want to make it last one more round. I want to do something." So you were going to get a star out, I think.
Yeah.
And I was like,
"No, I was able to get 3 different people on 3 more hexes.
Oh,
and that would have been $9 extra. Yeah.
And I was going to do that. But then Vaughn said that. He opened his mouth and was like, "What I'm about to do next is this." And I was like, "Never mind. Nope. I'm going to do my last enlist and it's over." And he's like, "Well, we get to finish the round, right?" And I'm like, "No, it's over immediately." And that's why I did that. So we counted it up and he still won, but he had a 30-point, he had like $30 stored up and I had 3. Mm-hmm. And then so I basically outscored him double in the in-game scoring.
Outscored him, absolutely.
But I lost by $3.
He had all that stored up
because he had $30+ to begin with. Yeah. So he ended up winning by doing a whole bunch of like 0 combat, 0 expansion, just making money.
Getting money.
And that's what's interesting about this game. You can win in all kinds of different ways.
I can't.
Well, but did you? Oh, you didn't get 4th place, but you were close to Steven, right?
Yeah, I think I was like 6 points off from Steven.
6 points off. But it was interesting because all of we were all bunched together on our popularity. So we were getting
you boys kept on trying to get closer to me and left me with like a whole 5 hexes.
Yeah, and you basically would have had to start fighting to move out more, and you didn't want to do that for some reason because I don't know why.
Because I only had 2 cards.
Yeah. What? So second game though.
Yeah. I'll play it again. I think next time I play, I'm going to try enlisting first.
I think that's a good idea.
Upgrading first.
I'm interested to see. I'm interested now that you've played it again. I would like to see how it plays 2-player.
Of course you would.
Well, I mean, I would like to see just because I've only ever played it with the least amount of people I've ever played it with is 4. So, and I played it with 5 and 7. If we ever play with
2-player, first of all, I call red. Second of all, you just better stay on your half of the building.
Well, and you'd be able to, You
stay on your half. And just forget getting those 2 damn stars for trying to fight my ass. Just stay on your half.
Well, I guess that would depend on that would depend on the faction, I guess. But yeah, I'd be the black one. I'd be interested to try it. I'd probably make that truce. I'd probably make a 0 combat truce.
House rule
until the last move where I had to, and then you would just flip the board.
You damn right I will.
So, but you're coming around a little bit on side.
I am. Right, I am. So Jamie won't be disappointed in me.
No, we're going to try to get Jamie on the podcast for a proper interview. He's been on before, did some stuff on our Halloween episode, but we're going to try to get a proper interview with him whenever Leandra is around. She's got some traveling coming up, so
yes,
we're going to try to schedule something around that and get Jamie on the podcast. When we finish Charterstone.
When does Stuff Fables come out?
It's out. We will be getting ours next week.
We're getting it next week?
We're getting it next week.
Okay, so we can play it next week because I leave the week after.
Well, I'm going to paint the miniatures. So
we're going to have to play with them naked.
Yeah, we could probably do that. Yeah.
Okay.
And then I'll start painting the miniatures. So of course, everybody knows we're Mice and Mystics and Jerry Hawthorne super fans. So
yes.
Stuffed Fables is on the way. So that's pretty much what we've been playing. It only took an hour to get there.
Well, we've been playing a lot.
We have actually had a lot of plays in the last 3 weeks. So now we're going to take a little break. Have an ad for Moon City Con, and then we'll be back with our feature of the episode, which is going to be heavy games versus light games in a battle royale. We'll be right back. Hello, fellow traveler. Nice to meet you upon the road.
Hello.
Might a friendly minstrel sing you a song about an upcoming event?
Please do.
Okay. It's called Moon City Con.
Ooh, very intriguing name.
Yes, it is an event that takes place annually, hopefully, in April 14th and 15th, in the Hampshire of Springfield, Missouri. What is a Hampshire? I don't know. But I wrote a little tune about it, and I would like you to help me sing it.
Okay.
Come April of 2018, there's a little place that I would like you to go with me, and it's called Moon City Con. It's in Springfield, Missouri, and you should go with me if you like to play board games. Sing the hook.
Ooh, what's a hook?
Very good. Moon City Con. Get your board gaming on. Come on out, what else you gonna do? In the middle of April, you fool. Hear that hook again. Moon City Con. Moon City Con. Moon City Con. I'm working on the ending still. Spare a gold piece for the weary minstrel.
I don't know where half the words you just said were.
Could you spare a gold piece for the weary minstrel?
Oh, there you go. Yes, here you go. Our blog.
I'm going to go have my guitar lessons now. Thank you. Oh, yes, and before you go, make sure to tell all your friends to go to www.mooncitycon and buy their passes and some garments.
Okay.
See you in the morrow. All right. What an ad. What an ad.
That was fan-freaking-tastic.
I hope that gets everyone out there to www.mooncitycon to buy their passes and come on out April 14th and 15th to play games with us and many, many other people. Where there's going to be other podcasts there. The Mix 6 podcast is going to be there. Lots of gaming companies are going to be there. It's going to be super fun.
Whoa, I just had a brain fart.
Did you? I thought I smelled something. Is it burning toast?
Does NSWFP, whatever the hell our abbreviation is, we need a table.
NSFWP, maybe?
Yeah, yes, that one.
Oh, okay.
We
don't.
a table.
'Cause I'm going to be too busy to do it unless you want to do it the whole time. I'm going to be too busy with the actual running of the convention to have one. We'll have a banner or something up.
We need something up.
And if we get any time to play games, and if anybody who... The problem is around here, the fans, quote unquote, that we have, listeners, are all people I already know anyway, so they're all going to be there. It's like they're not going to be... Nobody's going to faint when they see us, I don't think, so...
You mean we're not popular? Popular?
Well, no? I'm hoping lots of people from, our far-flung listeners will come all the way to Springfield to play some games with us. But, I'm hoping that at some point this convention will be big enough that it will draw people from, out of the state. But if you happen to be coming to the Midwest around that time, stop in and see us. So that's the extended ad. That's
okay. Well, I was just thinking, I thought maybe we should put a table up, or at least a sign or something. We're running
the whole damn thing. We basically are sponsoring it or being sponsored by it. So I mean, it's kind of we'll be present.
Okay,
sure.
Good.
We'll have our T-shirts.
Oh, we need T-shirts. Can I have a pink T-shirt?
Of course you can.
Okay.
Now it is time for our feature segment. And this week we're going to feature heavy games versus light games. I'm going to put some cool effects over that after we're done. So we're going to have a knockdown, drag-out fight between a few games here. I think we just have 3 bouts, basically, that I could come up with. And I think I just did this because I was kind of scrambling for something to have a main feature about, and I thought something we hadn't really talked much about. Games that have similar type mechanics or themes, but that one is more approachable and the other is more, for serious gamers or people willing to put in the time to learn a heavier rule set.
I think it's solid, babe.
I think that our definition of heavy will not line up with some people's definition of heavy.
I'm thinking Imperial Assault.
What?
Or not Imperial. Twilight Imperium.
Yeah.
Isn't that a game too?
Yeah,
That's a
that's
game
what we
too.
talked about just a little while ago. But I don't think you were really listening in while I was talking about that.
I was not. But anyway, I would think that most people would think those would be heavy games.
Yeah, that's a heavy game. I mean, it's a heavy game. And it's heavy because
it takes 12 effing hours.
It has tons of steps to do everything. And I think that
People have children in the amount of time that it takes to play those games.
This is true. It doesn't take me nearly that long to make it.
No.
But yeah, that's a slippery thing when it comes to board games. Some people think, like I have friends that think, or we might play games with someone who thinks that viticulture is a heavy game, which is on our list here. I don't think viticulture is a heavy game. I don't think it's necessarily either a light game, but we're going to throw it in the light game category. I think it's a very approachable game, even though it has some, mechanisms that are a little bit complicated and things that work together. But for us, this list is for us. So if you don't agree that these games are the heavy games that we're throwing in our heavy games,
please feel free to give us your heavy versus light games and comment down below, as Lily always says in her fake YouTube videos.
Comment down below, smash that like button. Go to our website or our Facebook page and give us a little comment on what you guys think of either our matchups and who you think comes out ahead on these, and then some of your own. I would love to hear it. So our first bout is going to be in the green corner with lightweight weighing in at I don't know. I didn't weigh these boxes. Is Viticulture by Stonemeyer Games and designed by Jamie Stegmeyer and Alan Stone versus the heavyweight champion Vinos by Vital Lacerda, and we have the What's Your Game version. I think there is an Eagle Griffin version that's much nicer, but we have the older version. Both these games about making wine.
Making wine, my favorite topic.
Your favorite theme in a game. And definitely both approach it from a different point of view. Viticulture is a worker placement game. Vinos is somewhat a worker placement game, but you're much more limited in your workers. You only have 2 workers, I think, in Vinos. And we've only literally played Vinos twice. And I think that's because it is an undertaking to play.
It is.
Like, I really liked it. I
enjoyed playing, but it's so my brain hurts when I'm done. It is
definitely not a sit back and just enjoy yourself light game. I think most people would agree it's a heavy game. I still don't think it's super heavy. I mean, the rules are hard to get to penetrate, but once you've got the rules down, the game works. It's again one of those games, sort of like Heaven and Ale, where once you get the rules get out of your way, the game doesn't get any easier. The game is still hard. It's easy to play, but it's hard to do well. It's very likely in Vinos that if you don't do well, you can score very, very low points, whereas Viticulture is more of a sandboxy type thing. Take your own strategy, do what you want. There's way more randomness in the cards that come out and things like that. And you can make combos and do all these things that you really don't have the opportunity to do in Vinos.
But I think that some people would consider Viticulture to be a heavy game.
Yeah, that's what we're saying. That's this is originally what our thesis was. I don't consider it to be a heavy game.
But we are also a little bit more experienced playing the game.
Yeah, I think most people that are listening to this have at least
are
had a
probably
little
in
bit
the
of
same
experience.
situation. Yeah, I know. I agree. Okay, you can erase that part.
No, that's fine. Light versus heavy doesn't necessarily mean there are much lighter games. I'm sure there's like a couple of card games about growing wine grapes and whatnot. But I'm not throwing in the super light. I'm talking about gamers games. So I think it's a pretty good matchup. Exactly the same theme taken from 2 great designers. Both are great designs. Both are great games, I think. It's just that we've played Viticulture, probably at least a dozen times, whereas we've only played Vinos a couple of times. And it's not because I dislike Vinos. It's because you have to be prepared to play a heavy game when it comes out. So I just feel like Viticulture is going to take this one because it's just so much easier to get out and play, and it's actually more of a monster of a game as far as components and everything. There's so much more shit to get out, and especially with the Tuscany, deciding what modules you're going to use and everything.
Expansion,
it's probably quicker.
We haven't even used the cheese stuff on it.
We haven't used half of it. There's still cows in there and cheese, and there's fruit. There's growing an orchard module. We haven't done any of those. We haven't even got all the special workers out. So there's so much in Viticulture. It's too much of a game to not win this bout, I think. Some people that have the deluxe edition of Vinos and really dig that game would probably say, hey, it's got all the bells and whistles too. It's got new artwork and all this stuff.
But it's just so
but it's $100 for that game also.
Yeah.
And I've got the original and it's good enough. I like it. That's a good game. But I think we're going to say Viticulture wins by decision.
Yes.
So, second up, what's our next matchup, babe?
Oh My Goods and
La Granja.
Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't want you to have to say
Thank you.
So, Oh My Goods we talked about earlier, and La Granja, I don't have the info in front of me. It's by Stronghold Games. I can't remember the designer's name. I really like him. He's got a new game out called Agra, which I'm really eager to try.
And that's the one where you make the bacon.
Yeah, you make the bacon,
right?
baby. La Granja is a really cool kind of free-for-all farming game where you're basically you're South American farmers, and you're able to use your workers to do pretty much anything on your farm. You can upgrade your farm, or you can go and get livestock, or you can process your livestock or your fields and stuff, and you can make other stuff. And basically, it's kind of a simultaneous thing where you roll some dice, and that gives you the actions that you can take, and everybody goes around and picks the dice that they're going to do, and that's the actions that they get. And then everybody just all at once does all the producing they can do on their farm. So everybody just moves these little cylinders from here to there and pays the money that they need to. And then you have to make deliveries. So you have a certain number of the burrows that you can use to make a certain number of deliveries to the main board, which is the town. And then there's a little area control thing going on there, and there's unlocking. I mean, this is the one I'm thinking people might balk at, being that this is a heavy game. But it's definitely not a light game. There's a lot of moving parts in La Granja. It's hard to teach. It's one of those.
But it was a fun game.
It's super fun. You killed me at it.
Well, now that you're explaining it, I'm remembering it. I can see the board exactly. And I would prefer that over Oh My Goods.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. We need to play it then. Because I think Oh My Goods gives me the same kind of feeling that La Granja does. The same kind of wide open options that you can do, but with just a game that's so much easier to get out, because like Granja has a shit ton of components
the board
and stuff.
Was huge too,
and you're doing all that setup and stuff. But yeah, I like them both. So you think La Granja?
I think I enjoyed. I remember the board exactly now that you've explained it again, and
you did really well at it. I remember that. Hey, that's good news for me, because I prefer to play the bigger game anyway normally. Yeah, I say we'll give this one to La Granja, even though I think Oh My Goods is punching way above its weight class in this, because
it is it's such a little box. It's just like
there's a lot of game in it.
There's a lot of game in that little box, and I totally agree. Like it's definitely more than what it appears to be just looking at the box. Absolutely, but side by side, in that particular type of game with characteristics, I would prefer the other one.
All right. Well, okay. Well, that one goes to La Granja then. Very nice. It means we're going to have to play that pretty soon.
I know. I knew what I just stepped in.
All right. Now, the main event, our third bout of the night, is going to be two new heavy hitters that have just come out. And I'm throwing this one onto the lightweight side.
Which I do not agree with.
I'm throwing Rajas of the Ganges in as the lightweight.
I don't agree.
And I'm throwing Heaven and Ale in the ring with it as the heavyweight game.
I would do backwards. I would do the other way around.
Really?
Yes.
But you can score so many points.
I would do the other way around.
The other thing about it is, Raja, there is no points. It's a race game completely. There's no points to be had. But the reason that I put these two together, you balked at the idea of even putting these two in the same class.
I don't think they go in the same class, and I certainly don't think that Rajas would be the lightweight.
Well, hear me out. I think it's because the main mechanism of both these games is to take these markers and move them along tracks. Everything you do in the game, the mechanisms are different. One is an action selection. The other is
But that's not dice. All you do in Rajas. Rajas, that's your points.
But they both have tile laying, and but there's no points. You're just racing.
I know, but you're racing, but you have all those things to do on the board. There's the boating, there's the dice, there's the this, there's the that, there's all of the producing of the goods and the selling of the goods and then the buying of the
same
tiles.
Thing in Heaven and Ale, though.
But it's so much bigger and heavier than Heaven and Ale.
But it's not heavy. It goes so much quicker. Like I don't think one time in Rajas have you ever thought nearly as hard as you do about a decision in Heaven and Ale about what you're going to do and what's going to happen if you trigger this thing and how many different things.
I disagree. Maybe that's why I win.
What do you mean? I blew you away last time we played it.
Didn't.
Yes, I did.
Are you sure?
Yes, I killed you at Rajas.
I don't think you did.
Oh, speaking of Rajas of the Ganges, I have never seen a worse reaction to a game than I brought that out with my friend Matt that I talk about sometimes on here. We played Oh My Goods together. He liked that. I beat him at that. Then we played another deck building game and I beat him at that. And then we played Rajas because I thought he would like it. Oh man, he hated that game. He was basically saying it's a terrible design and everything is random and there's nothing you can do. And there's he's like 10 minutes into the game, there was no way I could have possibly won. And I was like, well, I'll give you that. I knew what I was doing. So there was definitely an advantage to it.
Absolutely, yes.
But there was lots of stuff that you could have done. But every time I would give him a little bit of advice about what he could try, he would do what I said, but then go, well, then you screwed me there because I did this and you messed up my whole board and everything. And I'm like, well, you didn't have to do what I said. I was just giving you a little bit of options of what you can do. I think he was looking at it and just not seeing all the options that
there is definitely something
he quit early and he would not play it anymore.
Well, I don't blame him. I feel like that way with Courtier. But there is something to be said for when people learn games together. Because when you like Scythe, like you guys had played several times before me and I hated it. Because I lost horribly, didn't know what I was doing. You guys were doing fantastic. And so I understand Matt's frustration playing with someone on a harder game that's not lightweight and not knowing what you're doing against someone who has played several times. It's very frustrating. So you think that Rajas is more complicated than Heaven and Ale? Absolutely.
Really?
Yes.
I disagree. I think Heaven and Ale, because I've taught both of them, I think you can teach Rajas the Ganges in 3 minutes.
Yes, teaching it.
It's not possible to teach Heaven and Ale in that fast. I agree. You have to tell every single possible thing that can happen in that game in order for people to get it. Teaching them,
I agree. It does take more to teach Heaven and Ale.
That's where the weight comes into me.
No, playing it is where the weight comes in. There's more mechanics. There's more to do. There's more to choose from. There's more to look at. That's definitely Raja's hands down.
That's interesting. So what do we say then? Because, well, I still... it pains me to say, but I think I would give this to Rajas the Ganges anyway. The win on this versus bout. What about you? Like, do you like it better than Heaven and Ale? Yeah, you do. Yeah. I really like Heaven and Ale. I'm kind of enamored with it, but I also really like Rajas. So I think I'm gonna have to give it to Rajas. What about you?
Yeah, Rajas. Yeah? And you're incorrect. It's the heavy one.
Well, okay. Well, either way, it wins. It's either the underdog or it had the odds. We don't know, and we'll never know.
Nope.
But that's basically our feature. So why don't you get on our social media and interact with us a little bit? We need more of that. We're getting some of that. And you know what? I think right now I'm just going to throw it out there in order to try to get some more activity on our social media, Facebook and website comments and Twitter at NSFWP podcast. Let's do a little giveaway.
All right. What do you think?
Let's give away our poor loser of bout number 2. Let's give away a copy of Oh My Goods.
There you go.
To one of our listeners. We're going to give a brand new copy away to anyone who goes on any of those sites. If you comment on the website at www.nsfwppodcast.com on this episode, comment and give us your matchup and your winner of a heavy versus light, or do it on the Facebook page. Give a comment on this episode's link or on Twitter. If you'll hashtag NSFWP podcast on your post and give us your, or just tag us, just add us on Twitter and give us your matchups. Then I'll take all those people and we'll throw them into a hat and we'll draw a winner and we'll send you a brand new copy of Oh My Goods.
Perfect.
So I'm going to pin that to the top of all those pages. So anybody who's interested, and pass it on, share it and all that jazz. And let's get the word out there, because I'd like to hear what you guys think. So that's it for that segment. Now we're going to move on to our final segment of the game. Of the game? The game.
The podcast.
The podcast, which is a game.
I couldn't even remember the abbreviations of our own podcast.
I know. You kind of just went,
NSWFP.
NSWFP. It's close enough.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you get when you do long, weird acronyms.
Exactly.
All right. So I'm good at naming things.
Babe. You are.
So let's move on to another awesome acronym, IRL. Which didn't exist before we made this segment.
You left me
I have actual theme music.
You left me hanging with the...
Okay, we'll break it down. Break it down, babe. Let's hear it. Let's get some human beatboxing.
Anyway, so my...
that just sounded like a dog. It sounded like a pounding dog. I tried to do Dougie Fresh, and I got panting dog instead.
That was awesome.
All right.
Okay.
IRL.
But my IRL today, since I was just in the background.
That's editing magic, babe. No one will ever know.
Oh, man.
But you said
Oral.
it's not a word. You're not supposed to pronounce it.
Okay. So not this coming week, but next week I'm going to Long Beach. I have the displeasure. Oh darn! I'm going to Long Beach, California for 3 days.
Leaving me home by myself on Valentine's Day.
I am, but
not by myself, with my daughter.
No, I actually have a show to go to in Long Beach. To look at light bulbs. And
that's the LBC if you want another acronym to fuck up, and you can be like, we're going to Lubsk.
So before we go, I have to buy a dress for our daughter because Lily and Daddy have a Valentine's Day dance to go to. How freaking sweet is that?
We stole the show last year.
Matching corsages, whole 9 yards. It's going to be super fun.
Oh, excuse me.
Very nice. And while I'm gone to Long Beach, drinking with vendors and looking at light bulbs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Having your own little romantic getaway with your best buddy.
Yeah. Yeah. Tabby. Yeah. So yeah, I'm sorry. Valentine's Day is going to kind of suck this year. But you know what? For Valentine's Day, we bought each other a house. So
yep.
I love you every day. It doesn't really matter if it's Valentine's Day or not.
That is a greeting card holiday that I don't really give a shit about. You're
welcome to still send me flowers at Long Beach at my hotel. I can give you my hotel information if you'd like.
I'm sure that will happen.
But that's really, other than that, you bought me a house for Valentine's Day.
There you go.
All right.
Is that all you got?
That's all I got.
That's it? You're not even going to talk about The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel?
Oh, that's a great show.
I thought that was going to be a recommendation.
Well, because I always say it wrong. Imagine that. I say something wrong.
Repeat what I just said.
Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
Yeah, so that's a show. I don't know what network it's on because we steal all of our TV.
It's Amazon.
It's Amazon Prime, which actually we pay for, but we haven't watched it on Amazon Prime, actually. But yeah, that show, what is it about?
It's about a lady in the 50s?
Yep.
50s?
Well, 60s, early 60s.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it's early 60s.
Is it really?
Yeah.
And so her husband's a douche. And
no, you're right. It starts in 56, right?
Yeah.
It starts in 56, I think.
So she turns into a comedian. Life kind of sucks, and she's a rich bitch, and her life kind of sucks, and she turns into this awesome comedian, and it's hilarious. The show is fabulous. It's not kid friendly. There's lots of cursing and things. Some such other things.
Plus, kids would not enjoy it, I don't think.
Well, I mean, like some people just have shows going on in the background to watch.
Some people don't give a shit either, so,
This is not a show to have in the background.
It's really good. It took me by surprise. Like, I heard the title, a year ago when it started coming out or whatever, 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know what Marvelous Mrs. Maisel is, but it sounds like it's like it struck me as it would be like a Mary Poppins type of thing or something. So
and it's the same makers as Gilmore Girls.
Yeah,
right?
that's what I heard about it on another podcast talking about that it was by the creators of the Gilmore Girls, and you're such a Gilmore Girls fan. And I thought, well, I like the writing style of that show, but I don't necessarily care about the characters in that show. So I was interested to see what they would do. And what they have done in this show is there's two things. There's things that I like and things that I don't like. I like the story. I like the character. She's great. The actress that plays Mrs. Maisel is amazing. I know she's been in other things. I sort of recognize her, but she's perfect in this. She's just this, off the cuff, raunchy, housewife that turns into just like a great stand-up comedian.
And she's kind of like Lorelai in the aspect from Gilmore Girls. As that's where I see the similarities. Is Lorelai was really fast-tongued, like really witty, and that's how Mrs. Maisel is too.
Yeah, and it goes through the thing of like she's really good when she's raw, when she just jumps up on stage and she goes off the cuff, but she's pretty terrible when she starts trying to intentionally write. And so you see these examples of when she's funny at parties and when she's just all the time quick-witted, but whenever she tries to make a formula of it and become like a professional, you see that it doesn't work well for her. So she has to figure out her voice and be able to just, do her thing. And the things that I really like about it are her as the character. The other characters, her father, Tony Shalhoub, plays her dad. He steals the show. Every time he's on there, he's hilarious. And there's a lot of insight into the Jewish family in New York in the 50s. It's a peek into a life you don't really hear much about. You don't see that much on TV. And, who's the guy that plays her husband's dad? Kevin Pollak.
Yeah.
He's really good too. So that's both the fathers are really good, and the mothers play off of them each other really well. Just the characters are all really good, and her co-star, that's her manager. She's great too. She's from Mad TV, I think. I don't remember her name.
She was the.
Yeah, she was that girl.
What
whatever.
was that?
I don't know. Is it like a man?
Yeah, that girl from Mad TV.
She's awesome in it, and I like that it's a period piece because I really like those kind of things. It's very much like Mad Men, only Me Too era. It's very much like she is the Don Draper if Don Draper was the opposite of what he is. She's cool and nice and friendly, although she's a terrible mother. Kind of like Don Draper and her have that in common. Don Draper is a terrible father who was also a terrible husband, and he wasn't a good guy at all, but you still liked him. She's a good person, only you do see in this is like maybe it was the time or maybe it's cultural or whatever.
I think it's because she's rich and that's the kind.
She literally never spends any time with her children. It's like
she's the nanny.
She's gone at all times from her kids, which is weird to see. And the other weird thing, what I don't like about it, is they've chosen to do this weird thing where they drop in all this modern lingo into the 50s. They say things like, I just don't want any drama. And they'll say things like, I can't remember the other examples, but I know that was one. And every show, there's a couple of them where they just drop in this modern lingo from the last 3 or 4 years or, 5 or 6 years, 2000 stuff.
See, that's kind of what I think is fun about it. It's all set back in the 50s in New York and they're all in these cute little clothes and she looks adorable. And then she starts talking like
that brings me out of it
from
though.
Here.
Yeah, that brings me out of it though. I don't know. It's like because I want to see more of, because there's a lot of period accurate like comedians in there. So like there's real life comedians that they've got guys playing like Mort Saul and I can't even remember all the other ones. But they do era specific jokes and stuff, and it's not even that it's that funny now. But then when she starts coming out and being way more raw, like more like Andrew Dice Clay type stuff, which also probably didn't happen back then very often. But she gets arrested and stuff, which would have happened, but it's just weird. They pepper in all this modern lingo, which bugs me because I'm really into it. And then all of a sudden, every time they do that, it takes me out of it. I'm
so you for the show or against
I love
the show? I think
love
the show is fabulous.
I think it's great. That's the part I don't like. And I know it's a choice that they've done. They've decided to update all of the dialogue to be modern. But there's all kinds of cool little 50s lingo that they could have thrown in that they didn't, So that's, just a choice that they made, which is the one thing I don't like about it.
Of course.
But I do like the show. So,
all right, that's
the Marvelous
Earl.
Mrs. Maisel. And my Earl today, I got 2, and they're just recommendations of stuff that I've been listening to and taking in. One is a series of books called Critical Failures series written by Robert Bevan. And basically it's a series of what if your D&D group was pulled into the world. There is a term for this thing too, and I don't remember the acronym for it. We're all about acronyms this episode.
Apparently.
But there's a genre of books out there that I didn't know about, of like writing of like what if people got sucked into these MMO RPGs and stuff, like what if you got sucked into World of Warcraft or any of these computer games like that. And it's a whole genre that I didn't know existed, and they sell like crazy apparently, like the ebooks and stuff of them. And this is sort of like that. It's sort of like the cartoon version, the 80s cartoon versions of Dungeons and Dragons, the cartoon where the kids are at the circus and they get sucked into the game, right? Mm-hmm. But this is an R-rated version of that, where it's these, typical D&D loser archetype guys who are sitting around at a chicken shack playing D&D, and nobody wants to DM, so they get on like Facebook or Craigslist, and they get this guy called Mordred to come and meet them, and they all live in I think it's Gulfport, Mississippi, and they get this guy to show up, and he shows up and he's in his cloak and he's really super dorky, and he's the fat guy with the beard, like all the stereotypes. But little do they know he's got magic dice, and so they're not taking the game seriously, and they're making fun of him, and he gets pissed, and he does what he does, and he gets them to roll the magic dice, and they get transported into his world.
That's
so
cool.
Then they turn up with their, modern day sensibilities, and they turn up in this fantasy world that he has created, and they're stuck there, and he is the dungeon master. So there's a whole world that acts independently of itself, and then he can basically take over anything in the world, the Mordred guy. And he's alive in the real world in the chicken shack, like doing his thing and guiding them around. And, they're trying to figure out how to get out, what to do. And I thought it was just a one-off. Turns out there's like 4 books in the series. I've listened to 3 of them now. They keep getting deeper into shit, and they think they've killed Mordred, and they think they're stuck forever, and then they figure out a way to come back, but they're still the character. So one of them gets turned into a half-orc that has a terrible charisma score, so he shits himself all the time, and he's disgusting, and nobody wants to look at him. And, one of them is never played before. That was his first time, and he's a wizard, and he keeps leveling up wrong. Every time he levels up, he's like, I'll take a level in wizard, and then I'll take a level in sorcerer, and then I'll spend all my points on learning how to play the violin and all this stuff. And they're like, why are you wasting your points on this? We're all going to die, And it's very interesting. It takes D&D if you've played D&D at all, there are jokes in there that will get you. Like, you would get these jokes. If you're not into RPGs at all, it's still a fun, funny, R-rated, it's like an R-rated comedy movie. It's basically written from that. But there's also a lot of action and a lot, just a good story. It propels itself. It keeps you turning the pages.
That sounds cool.
So it's really good. And I think I've read 3 of the books. There's a 4th one out, and I don't think it's going to end there. I think it's going to keep going. So Critical Failure series by Robert Bevan. I highly recommend it. It's politically incorrect in a lot of ways, but it redeems itself. It does a lot of weird stuff. Like, I would almost like to talk to the author, because like in the last book, the whole thing has been like, there's definitely sexist things that are in there, but then they'll talk about it. Like he'll say, the characters will say something stupid and sexist or racist or something, but then someone else in there will comment on it and call them out on it. You know what I mean? But so it's interesting that he'll go there, but then he'll also reel it in to like let everyone know that he's characterizing these people as being, having their flaws, but also pointing it out. Then in the last book, 2 of the main characters in it end up being sexual predators, like pedophiles. Wow. But he somehow, I don't know, he doesn't, it's weird. It's a weird take. Like, they're never heroes in it. Well, one guy, because he's on the sex offender registry, and then you find out it was because, he had sex with an underage person, but they had an ID, and he's only like 20 something, and they had an ID, said they were, but because they weren't over 18, then he ended up being on the list, right? And the other guy's a straight up rapist. That's, and they both are characters throughout this book.
That's crazy.
And your whole time you're like, well, of course they're foils, and they're, but the other guy, he becomes a sympathetic character, the one who you were like, well, it wasn't really his fault type of thing, even though you're like, on the surface, you're like, well, I wouldn't want to think that normally. But he tries to humanize these things, and it's weird. It's a weird balance. I wonder what his
basis is behind putting those kind of things into a D&D book.
It's a weird balance to walk. You know what I mean? And I think he pulls it off for the most part, but that could be some things. Like, that won't be for everybody. There'll be some people who'll just be like, because he did that, I won't, I can't, I'll drop out of the series at that point. I thought it was weird. But it wasn't like I said, it wasn't. It's a weird social. He's doing a lot of social commentary within this book, which is interesting. So, if that sounds interesting to you, then check out Critical Failures series. And the second and last thing I'm going to talk about is a podcast that's come out. I really enjoy these radio drama podcasts that have come out in recent years. Some of them take the thing of like a mockumentary. A lot of them do. There's one called Tanis, which is a very Lovecraftian one that has like 3 seasons. And it's like a story told from the perspective of, what if Serial, the podcast, was about a reporter, investigating this weird series of manuscripts and stuff. And then ends up getting into like this, going to another world and dimension and reporting on all this weird shit. And then there's Welcome to Night Vale, which is very similar type of thing. And in that same vein, there's this new one out that's called The Phenomenon. And it's a sci-fi thing about basically the end of the world. It's about, I don't even want to spoil it. I just want to say, if you like that, if you like sci-fi and you like good radio drama type things, you should listen to it. I don't even want to say anything about exactly what it's about, but it's an end of the world scenario that I think is pretty interesting and pretty, and it's ongoing right now. So it's only got, I think, 4 or 6 episodes out now, I think, and it's continuing on. So it's coming out every couple of weeks. So that's a good one to jump onto right now. So if you want to check out the Phenomenon, just Google Phenomenon Podcast. I think it's really good. So that's all I got for IRL.
That's it.
We got anything else going on?
Besides the house.
Well, that's we've talked to death about that. We'll talk more when we actually get in there. So March, middle of March
is the closing date.
We'll be moving, so we'll try to get a couple episodes banked up before then. But we'll tell you more when we get moved in there, and we'll see how it all goes. So that's the end.
All right.
I believe of episode 17 of the Not Safe for Worker Placement pot. Oh shit!
Oh, you said it right.
No, not that. Look over your shoulder.
Oh.
Look who's climbing up on the bar. Get him over in your microphone. I don't even want to talk to him. See what his deal is.
Maurice.
What's up? Can I get on the podcast?
Sure. Come on over, Maurice.
What's up, Maurice? I don't know. Just hanging out. What are you guys doing?
I don't think Maurice has ever actually talked before, has he?
Oh yeah, he's made some speeches.
I thought he just came in and
did
us a toot.
What do you think I do?
I think he just gives us a toot.
You think that's all I'm about?
You sound like the lady from Adventure Time.
Well, do I? That ain't my fault. I never even seen Adventure Time. Do you mean Tree Trunks?
Tree Trunks, yeah.
I don't really sound like Tree Trunks because that's not what I am. I'm Maurice.
You are Maurice. Maurice.
The sentient meeple.
Maurice.
What's up?
We're closing the segment today, right now.
Oh, so what are you trying to say? You want me to do this? I'm not doing it. I'm not going to do it.
Okay.
Oh, you thought I wasn't going to do it, but I did it.
Thought you had stage fright there for a minute.
Bye, Finn. Bye, Jake.
Wow.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the NSFWP podcast, episode number 17. We implore you to check out all things NSFWP at www.nsfwppodcast.com and on Facebook at NSFWP Podcast and on Twitter at NSFWP Podcast. You can find me, Ben, on Twitter at Meeple of Madness. Let us know what you think about the show, what you like, what you don't like, not quite as much of what you don't like. And join us next week for episode 18, where we'll talk about some such other things having to do with board games. See ya!